Okay, hi, good afternoon. Greeting from Singapore, and thank you for having CDL to host this final panel. And I'm really happy to have some of our partners here to join us to talk about the focus today is actually innovating towards net zero cities and communities. I have with us Tan Kok Tai from ADDP Architect, Neil Young from Wahab, which is a main contractor, and Neil Masak from CBM, which is a facility and building management company. And what we are going to start talking about is like how we can all work together along the value chain, engaging a bigger ecosystem of stakeholders to achieve net zero through innovations and through partnership. So the last 2 years, all of us actually, have seen that there's a new dawn, for sustainability. Literally, sustainability exploded into the mainstream, whether it is on the global level or national level, and there is actually a convergence of will and commitment. And COVID also taught the world that the health of our planet, people, business, and economy is interconnected and interdependent. And now we are all talking about the race to zero. And why we talk about it is because really we are facing climate emergency. Race to Zero is now a global campaign that engaging participating cities, countries, organization, company, investors that all together account for more than 90% of global GDP. And of course, at COP26, everywhere you turn, there is actually a net zero message. So for CDL, we are a developer, we are a building owner, and we adopt the World Green Building Council net zero carbon building commitment when we pledge for net zero. And we are very honored to be, amongst, also 44, pioneering signatory, at the COP26 and expanding our net zero commitment to whole life carbon emissions. In 2021, February, we actually pledged for net zero using the World Green Building Council net zero carbon building commitment. And in November last year at Glasgow, we joined the 44 pioneering signatories to expand our commitments to adopt whole life carbon emissions approach. So we are very glad that, this net zero have become a common language that, for asset owners, and insurers, bankers, and even stock exchanges, regulators, and of course, businesses, for us to set this North Star goals to, to work towards net zero. And we really need to do so is because like almost, in the past few years, World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report, always, concluded with climate risks at the top, few global risks. And this year in January, they also released it, and no surprise, climate action failure, extreme weather, and biodiversity loss were actually voted as the top risks. And IPCC in February also, repeated a stern warning that the window of opportunity for human intervention to tackle climate threats is fast closing. So we all need to work on it together. And on the national level, we are very glad that, even in Singapore, we have already pledged to, achieve net zero by or around 2050. And we also come with, more stringent regulations on green building and also carbon tax as well. So our Singapore Green Plan 2030 has 5 pillars, including, one of the most important ones that affect our real estate sector is resetting the energy, which is number 3. So our Green Building Master Plan sets the targets to green 80% of all buildings in Singapore. And for new developments, we are not just looking at green building, but also looking at super low energy buildings. We will show you some of the, a couple of our examples. And along the value chain, of course, financial sector has really great influence, to push the sustainability and ESG agenda. Principle for Responsible Investment also set up an inaugural, real estate advisory committee, stepping up on how to advise real estate players to step up on responsible investment, responsible, financing and all. So almost every sectors in the business environment are pushing for net zero. So how do we turn these so-called net zero ambitions to reality? And I think very importantly, we have to engage our value chain. We also have to adopt innovation. And as a developers, that has, almost 60 years of experience, we are very, happy that we have been committed to doing well and doing good for almost 27 years now, since 1995. And today we have operation in 29 countries and regions, including building homes and commercial property and as a landlord, and also managing and hotels as well. And we also have a fund management arm to enable us to invest in, prop tech and sustainability, initiative as well. So for CDL, our ESG pillars that have the 4 I's actually is integration. That means it cannot work in silo. We integrate it into the whole organizational governance structure at all levels, from the board to the operational level, from the headquarters to the subsidiaries to overseas as well. And the second I, the second pillar, is innovation. The risk mitigation is not sufficient. We need adaptation. That means we have to tap onto new solutions, innovation, and technologies to green our building environment. And investment is where we put money, invest into, prop tech and all to help us, to do better, to decarbonize. And of course, impact we have to look at. Set targets, we have to look at performance. We also have to track performance and report them. And the 3 deliverables that we are looking at is decarbonization, because globally, building sectors account for almost nearly 40% of greenhouse gas emission. And we need to, the second deliverable is digitalization. We need to use, digital and technology, AI, and all to help us achieve the targets that we set for decarbonization. And last but not least is disclosure and communicate with our stakeholders, our investors. And this is actually our CDL value creation model. At the center of it, it is still our corporate ethos that was established in 1995, conserving as we construct. And today, of course, we look at it through the business and financial lens, look at how we can green our built environment and to produce better products, and also, protect, conserve our resources and the planet. And the UN SDG has 17 goals, 169 targets, which was launched in 2016. And since then, we have started embracing SDG. And today we have embraced 14 out of 17. And of course, the top favorite is climate action, infrastructure, innovations, and the number 11 is my favorite, which is sustainable cities and communities. Nobody can green the world alone. We have to work with partners together. And of course, the end goals, what we are looking at is net zero. And this is actually how we look at the whole value chain and the whole life cycle. From the day we actually acquire a piece of land, and we have to engage our, architect, designer, engineer to design better and to reduce heat gain right from the beginning. And this one, I will leave it to, Kok Tai to talk a little bit more about how architect can, help us to green the environment. Before we complete, of course, the construction is very important. Construction using building technology, using technology and practices, and sustainable building materials are all very important. And later on, Neil Young, and our main contractor from Mohawk, will be talking about it. And every building after completion can last for decades. So how are we going to, manage buildings is very important. How are we going to engage tenants, users are very important to achieve, the targets that we want to set. And of course, every company will have a lot of ESG issues, but we need to stay focused. So since 2014, we adopted the materiality study. So engaging our internal and external stakeholders and identifying most important, most top material issues that we should focus on, that actually set the compass for us to strategize our ESG and also green building practices. And now let me focus on innovation and also, investment. And as what I share, February 2021, we made the bold steps to pledge to World Green Building Council's net zero carbon building commitment. And we follow the scope of, the 5 steps to commit, disclose, act, verified, and advocate. And of course, when you commit net zero, we have to be very specific, and we have to set very specific goals and area so that, we can track performance and also identify gaps for improvement. And of course, investors, stakeholders also want to know whether you are on track, or, what are the, involved in improvements that you come up with to achieve net zero. And of course, design and technologies are very important. And this is actually awarded the first BCA Green Mark Platinum Super Low Energy for both residential and also service apartment, office, and retail. This is actually a 4-in-1 projects, mixed developments that Kok Tai is going to talk about it more in details, how the design and technologies help us to, match this super low energy platinum level. Then, of course, greening is very important. Singapore is next to the equator. And we are heating up twice as fast as the rest of the world. So how to cool the environment is very important. So this will start from really the whole life cycle. How do we design? How do we, make sure that we provide the shading and the ventilation? I will leave it to the expert, Kok Tai, to talk more about it. And also how can we use, technologies to help us to reduce heat gain right from the drawing board, and raise productivities as well. So impact, anything we do have impact. And in today's environment and this decade of urgent climate action, the business case has never been stronger. And this is actually some of the so-called ROI, covering some tangible reputational gain, and also the benefits on like savings, for example, using technology, energy efficient retrofitting, and actually it helped us save 34 million in energy savings from 2012 to 2021. And also we have every year we actually report on our reduction in carbon emission and also energy reduction and all. And since in early 2000s, we are already committed to green building, and we are very honored to have achieved 104 BCA Green Mark awarded buildings as of now. And so this is actually our report card. We always say that, how we can we are recognized, by independent ESG disclosure, ESG ratings and rankings are very important. So CDP A list, MSCI AAA rating, all these are really reflecting, how our effective ESG strategies and affirming that we are aligned with best practices. And this report card is very important because it helps us to access to the fast growing ESG investment and also sustainable finance. And in April 2017, in fact, we actually rolled out the first green bond by a Singapore company. And then since then, we have actually clocked up about 3 billion worth of sustainable finance in the form of green loan or, green revolving credit facilities and all. And one very particular examples that we are very proud of is we actually connect innovation with Sustainable Development Goal. We called it SDG Innovation Loan, $250 million loans. It is a sustainability linked loan by nature. So we actually partner with DBS to look at how we can, fund innovation. And if we can proven that the innovation is, first of its kind and effective and can scale up, the bank will offer us, discount. And very happy to announce that we have actually achieved this as the very first, digital platform that Neil is going to talk about it, Digit Hub, how it can help us to improve, performance for building management. So we can't do it alone. We have to also engage community. Do they know what exactly green building? What does that mean? So we actually engage some national platform. This is actually a zero energy green gallery that we set up with partners at our Singapore Botanic Gardens. And since 2013, it has staged about 18 exhibitions. And currently we are staging the Change the Present to Save the Future Climate Action exhibition, and engaging public, private sector, and also, peoples to educate why climate action is important. This is the other platform that we call it Sustainability Academy, which is also net zero. And, it has a very dedicated objective is to embrace SDG and green building, and also, to educate public industry, what renewable energy is all about. We partner with Sustainable Energy Association Singapore. Together we promote green building and also renewable energy. Since it's open, in June 2017 until end of last year, we have actually organized 600 over events and trainings, reaching out to tens of thousands of audience in person, and as well as through a digital platform. And youth are very important, and these are a lot of events that we engage youth, whether they are even primary school or young adults. And we also brought in actually international environmental leaders such as like Robert Swan, and just now we showed actually Dr. Jane Goodall and also Dr. Sylvia All these are legendary leaders that come to Singapore to engage our public and to talk about how everyone can contribute to climate action. And we never forget the young people. This is called My Tree House, which actually became the first world's first green library for children. It was opened in 2013. That afterwards Kok Tai is going to talk about it. We can actually build a more sustainable future, because business today is no longer about just profits. We need to take care of our planet. Without a healthy planet, there won't be people for businesses to thrive and make profits. So with this, I want to hand over to Kok Tai to talk about the important role of architect and the design components of the whole life cycle. Over to you, Kok Tai.
Hey, thank you, Esther. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kok Tai. I'm from ADDT Architects Singapore. So just a very short introduction of our company. Basically, we are a company of more than 30 over years of history, architectural practice, with 241 awards. Yeah. So before we start any projects, we really look at the life cycle concept of the whole development. From, let's say, for instance, from the production stage, the raw material extractions, the selections of materials, the tiles, the timber, the transportation. Of course, in Singapore, everything is imported from overseas, and the manufacturing. So in this case, basically, in the global manner, basically, we are using the environmental product declaration. But in Singapore context, we will rely on the Singapore Green Building Council or SGBC label to specify products for our design. Then from there, we'll go to the construction stage, the transportation to construction site, as well as the installation and assembly. Then we come to the usage part. The usage part is where the building is finished and is delivered to the user, whether it is a residential or a commercial. It is important upfront to communicate with the user what is the design aspect that we have introduced. Like for instance, when we design pneumatic chute or non-organic or organic chute, the information must be passed down to the user on how to use those things that we design. Then from there, we go to the end of life stage. Of course, when we design the building, we expect the building to last 100 years, but in Singapore context, because of the redevelopment, maybe it will last only about 50 to 60 years. But we do have buildings that later I'll share with you. One of the projects that we take on an existing building and we have to demolish it because it is existing building for redevelopment. Yeah. So there'll be 3 projects that I would like to share with you. The first project will be the tree house. It is a residential private condominium project. If you look at the Google map on the right-hand side, basically when we went down into the site in the first time, basically the whole area is surrounded by forest. And it's actually across the forest is actually our Singapore catchment area. So as an architect, we went down to site, we take reference from the site, we take inspiration from the site, and we embrace the native ecosystem to design. So one of the things that we started off together with CDL is that we started off a biodiversity impact assessment of the whole design. So from there, the BIA actually come up with 99 native animals and 32 plant species that is actually around the area. And of course, when you do development, you have no choice. Sometimes you got to, clear off some of the forest for redevelopment of the new project. But what we did is that we identified those animals and plants, and we want to introduce native plants that will attract back these biodiversified animals back into the development. In fact, at the end of the day, we plant more trees than what we have taken from the site. And of course, at the perimeter also, we conserve a lot of the existing trees. So from there, we have this idea that why not we design the whole site like a green carpet. And basically, we will have green wall to minimize direct solar radiation. And not only it is environmental friendly, but we also want to make it as an aesthetic of greening, an art for the building. Partly also because tree house was the first development that was started at this site. And actually, there's a major road coming into the development. And we want the green wall to be an introduction to this whole environment, which is actually very forestry and very green. So when we introduced this green wall, in fact, we were very surprised that our client CDL actually accepted this design very generously, because we were worried that the cost of building this green wall would be very expensive. But they are very sporting, very game into supporting us in this design. So in this bio shelter, aesthetically, obviously, is a visual relief. Like I mentioned just now, when you enter to the site, this is the first thing you see. It is also an architectural landmark for the whole, not only this development, but for the surrounding site itself. As an environment, you reduce the urban island heat, improve obviously the air quality. In fact, it increased the green plot ratio by almost 1.5. It enhanced the biodiversity, and obviously is a very therapeutic effect on greenery. Economic-wise, those people staying there have been proven by scientific that there is a reducing cooling load of 3%, 3 degree. And of course, there's an increase in the property value. So on the facade itself, we designed fins, 900 horizontal fins, and also to reduce the wall to glass ratio to reduce the heat gain into the units. On top of that, we also did scientific analysis using what we call the computational fluid dynamics, CFD, on a macro level to position the building so that it will maximize the wind in our tropical weather, so that all the units are naturally ventilated. And on a micro level as well, so that we make sure that all the bedrooms or the bathrooms are cross-ventilated. So in this overall design, we have achieved 80% of the apartments to be naturally ventilated for all the rooms inside the units. And besides the green wall, also we have a sky garden at every 6 different levels. So if you look from the top down, you have all this common space at the sky terraces to enjoy the green, not only on the ground, but also on the upper level. Yeah. We also designed an eco pond. Basically, eco pond means that it's non-chlorinate pond. And basically the whole ecosystem using the recycling water and the biosphere. As I highlighted earlier, 77% of the site area was dedicated to landscaping and greenery. The next project that I want to share is completely different from the first one. This is a mixed-use development right in the heart of a city. It comprises of a residential, a service apartment, and a commercial and an office. It's actually on an existing building that we need to demolish and build this. And this one, basically, the project is designed by Nikken Seikei, Japan. So when we took over the project, working together with them, we find that there's a lot of opportunity for us to make this as a super low energy building in Singapore. And for this one, okay, from day one, we really set the objective that we want to do a super low energy building for Platinum 4-in-1 in the middle of Singapore City. Okay, this is really the objective. But nevertheless, this is the overall of how the whole design concept look like. Now, what's interesting is that we work together with Nikken Seikei and of course the authority UIA and CDL to introduce a lot of roof garden and sky terraces, so that if you look from any corner, okay, you will see green on this building. But in this design overall, there are increase of green space because in the city area, it is a very tight site. So the linear plunder, the roof terraces, the sky garden, the sky terraces, the roof garden, all contributed in greening this building. And then at the perimeter, there are perimeter fins of 600 to 2.1 meter deep, for obvious reason, because the whole building is in a trapezium form. So they'll be facing on the east-west. So these are the deep perimeter fins that we use to protect the units inside from heat gain. So in terms of improving the ETTV or the RETV. In this sense also, we have PV panels. We have put the PV panels on the roof. At one stage, we are thinking of putting the PV panels on the facade. However, we decided to go for the district cooling system, which is the first few development within CBD, new development, by the way, to use a district cooling system. And with this, basically, it will save a lot of energy and also help us to minimize, in fact, to take away the vertical PV panel that is required to achieve a super low energy building. Of course, in the office itself, there's a dedicated meter to monitor the receptacle load consumption and green fit out guide to encourage the tenant to switch off when not in use. So this is more of a behavior change that we want to influence the tenant. The residential apartment itself, just like tree house, is basically truly cross-ventilated. There will be ceiling fan provided to encourage the cross-ventilation. We also use a high-velocity, low-speed fan within the unit itself. The auto irrigation is utilizing new water for landscaping irrigation. And just like I mentioned that there's an existing building, right? So we demolish an existing building. More than 35% of the material actually is crushed concrete waste. We basically recycle the aluminum, recycle the steel, and also the concrete itself. So in conclusion, for this development, we have achieved the super low energy Green Mark Platinum. So in terms of energy saving, basically it saved energy saving of more than 500 units of HDB 4-room flats on a monthly usage. In terms of water saving, it saved almost more than 3 numbers of Olympic-sized swimming pool, and carbon reductions, you're looking at in replacement of 6,600 number of trees, which is actually very, very significant. Now, the last one basically is more educational. It's a children's library in the existing National Library building. So this is the centerpiece of the whole development. So once you come in, you will see this super tree house. You'll notice very interesting on the top, actually they're all recycled bottles with LED light. Along the way, someone said, yeah, why don't we create a tree house that actually you can really climb up on the platform, and the children love it. Obviously, our concern really is that the noise that is generated by the children. So we actually put in a lot of carpet. And if you take a look at the picture on the bottom right, actually, it is actually a very nice space for the children to read. The purpose of this is educational. So in the knowledge tree. We are actually educating the children about sustainability, about climate change, about greeneries, right? And these are the stories that we carve together. I mean, of course, National Library themselves carve out the story based on what we have designed and what CDL have input. So we have on the right, we use a low volatile organic compound or low VOC paint, all the way down to the green activities and educational program. With that, thank you very much. Yeah. So Esther, I pass back the presentation to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kok Tai, and it was a really interesting, journey on how architect can really make a difference to decarbonize the built environment. And now let's look at another very, important stage of the whole life cycle of, the building environment, which is actually the construction. And we are very, very happy to have Neil Young, who's actually the executive director of Warhub Private Limited, one of the oldest and most established construction companies in the regions. Over to you, Neil.
Thank you, Esther. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Neil, and we're happy today to have the opportunity to share what are some of the initiatives and endeavors that we're trying to do to be able to give back towards the climate. So why do we need to do more? For us in the built environment, we contribute about 20% of Singapore's carbon footprint, although our GDP is only about 5% of that of the country. For us as a layman, we know that on a daily basis, we are seeing an increase in daily temperatures, and the last few weeks in Singapore has been extremely hot. Our Minister of Finance, Lawrence Wong, has said that we are on track to hit our 2030 targets in terms of reductions, and we would be able to hit net zero emissions by around mid-century. Hence, we must do all our part. We must all do our parts to ensure that we achieve Singapore's targets. In the past, due to razor-thin margins in the construction sector, we have always focused on being profitable at the project levels before setting aside money to do good. As part of our efforts to contribute back towards the environment, we have donated close to $2 million towards sustainably related charities and initiatives. One such example is the Singapore Sustainability Academy. This was built by CDL and industry partners. We provided the main contracting services and used MET in the construction of the SSA. We have also sponsored $1 million towards the Sun Pavilion to house cacti and succulents in 800 square meters at Gardens by the Bay. However, giving back is no longer good enough. We need to do more. As such, in 2021, we set up our Sustainability Management Committee. This is led by our Deputy Chairman and aims to oversee the development, management, and implementation of sustainability strategies. We have just completed our first sustainability report, which will allow us to account for emissions and environmental impacts. We can improve our efforts in 3 key verticals: how we live, how we build, and what we build. Simple steps should be taken to change the way we live. We are committed to reducing our printing by 50% and to completely eliminate the use of water, plastic bottles, and name cards. What we build is highly determined by our clients and consultants. However, we are proud to say that of all our ongoing projects, we have achieved a minimum Green Mark Gold certification, and 2 of our projects have achieved the Green Mark Platinum SLE. How we build is the area that a builder has the greatest influence on, and I believe we can further segment this into 3 main categories: construction materials, tools, and methods. Concrete and steel bars are the 2 largest contributors of CO2 in construction. The use of carbon-cured concrete helps reduce 17 kilos of CO2 embodied carbon per meter cube compared to the traditional concrete. Recycled steel rebars greatly reduces the embodied carbon of the material due to the reduced energy requirements to produce them as compared to virgin steel. In one of our projects, Piermont Grand with CDL, we have adopted the recycled steel rebars and believe that we are able to reduce 25% of overall embodied carbon at Piermont Grand. Pyrmont Grand itself will achieve 0.48 tons of CO2 equivalent per meter square of GFA. In low-rise developments, we are able to substitute concrete and rebar with mass-engineered timber, MET. Aside to using this to replace high-embodied carbon materials like concrete and rebar, MET is also a renewable material. Finally, we have also opted to use gush paint at House at Handy by CDL. This paint not only breaks down VOCs and purifies the air, but it's also easier to maintain the walls as its antibacterial and mold properties. The use of such materials unfortunately costs more money. We believe for concrete is 3 to 5% more expensive, and the adoption of gush paint costs us close to $40,000 more. Working with responsible developers like CDL has allowed us to share this cost increase and allow us to give back more meaningfully towards the environment. Two examples on our efforts to improve the selection and deployment of tools at our work sites include the AMP Entertainer and the battery-operated power tools. The AMP Entertainer replaces the use of diesel gensets, thereby reducing our carbon emissions by 85%, and it lowers noise pollution by 32 times. Aside to these benefits, we are able to reduce a hazardous material on our site. We have deployed 2 such gensets, and we have purchased another 5, which will be deployed across our site soon. For cordless power tools, we hope that this will improve the safety and productivity on our sites. The removal of cumbersome wires not only improves setup times, but reduces tripping hazards and other electrocutional risks. We are also exploring setting up solar-powered charging booths with proper fire compartmentalization to minimize risk of electrical fires and to fully convert it into a sustainable use of energy. Improving our construction methodology would hopefully improve productivity, but also reduce the amount of waste generated. We have moved towards the use of design for manufacturing approach to achieve these objectives. A factory setting would also allow us to reduce dust and noise nuisances to our neighbors and serves as a more controlled environment to achieve better quality. These are some of the examples that we have deployed across CDL jobs and other of our projects. The first is a precast bathroom unit, whereby the entire bathroom unit is done off-site. Tiling, shower screens, vanity tops will be all done. In the PPVC construction, we are fabricating the entire unit off-site in modules, whether it be a living room, dining room, a kitchen, or the bathrooms. Finally, on the precast risers, it's a new implementation that we'll be doing at one of CDL's new jobs, where we will be housing the precast refuse chute together with our M&E risers with pre-installed M&E services off-site. The journey towards net zero cannot be done alone. Everybody has a part to play. The developer plays an extremely important role in the value chain as they are the lead stakeholder. Common values and trust must be fostered to ensure that synergistic value is harnessed. We can see the journey of CDL and WOHUB across the last 12 years over here, and we have seen the implementation of good practices that can help give back to the environment, starting with precast, PBUs, PPVCs, adoption of new technologies like gush paint, using of lower embodied carbon materials like recycled steel, carbon cure concrete, and the deployment of tools such as the Entertainer and the Cordless tools, and of course the development of the new precast risers that we'll be deploying in the last most recent CDL job that we have embarking on together. The CDL continues to push the Green Mark status and certifications that they achieve. Thank you.
Now, I will actually invite Neil Masak to talk about how, facility and building management can also contribute to decarbonization. Over to you, Neil.
Okay, thanks, Esther. Just let me share my screen. Okay, very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Neil, and on behalf of CBM, allow me to kick off my presentation by giving you a quick rundown of who we are. before I commence the sharing proper on how CBM has taken some steps in bringing FM services to the next level. So this is what CBM is at a glance. Notably, we just celebrated our 50th anniversary in August last year, and we have journeyed a very long way since then to become one of the leading FM players in the local FM space today. As you can see from the pictorial on your right, it is testimony that we really live and breathe the concept of integrated facilities management from the myriad of services within. Some of the more unique service offerings that you won't see in other FM companies are that of our own laundry company, which has, for now, the largest automated laundry plant in Singapore. In addition to that, we also have our own car park management and equipment company as well, whereby we have an assembly line which produces the car park gantry stations. These you will really not find in other players locally and perhaps internationally as well. Now, before I go on to talk about what DigiHub is, I would like to share on what was the impetus of creating it in the first place. To start, let us first look at how buildings are conventionally managed, even in today's context. Firstly, there's still a silo approach to the management of individual buildings. And as far as FM systems go, it is typically a standalone platform dedicated to that particular property with little overview or sensing of what the performances of other establishments are like, or whether there are any common trends in the fault occurrences. Furthermore, it still works on the model of preventive and reactive maintenance, which is still pretty labor intensive, and this ultimately leads to rising costs. Thus, that led us to the vision of DigiHub, where we wanted to create a smart enterprise platform for building owners to centrally and proactively manage their building assets for optimal performance with minimum resources. Using the three emerging technologies of IoT sensors, edge computing, plus AI and machine learning, we sought to achieve the centralization of resources to optimize the performances in managing multiple buildings. This involved adopting a new predictive approach for M&E maintenance, which would aid in improving the productivities of both management and site teams. Now, this next slide aims to give you an overview of the platform architecture and generically how it works, starting from rigging up the building with IoT sensors. The data from the on-site IoT sensors and the existing BMS are routed through the site gateway for edge processing before being sent to the cloud for ETL, short for extract, transform, and load. After which, the property data management platform pulls the input data and processes them through the AI engine, and the various information is then displayed accordingly through the dashboard. If I could just draw your attention now to this box in the center right here, you will notice that this is actually comprising of 3 different screens, which is the setup of the command center dashboard. And I'll have a blown up version for you in the next slide. This first screen shows the country map, whereby all the properties in the selected country, Singapore in this case, are listed as individual icons. And once you click on the property, you will then come to screen 2 and 3 concurrently, which provides the property details and key parameters respectively. So moving into screen 2, you will see a multitude of tabs like properties and leasing info, FM service performance charts, and so on. And all the information on screen 2 is dedicated to that individual property. And now for screen 3, you will see a number of key parameters like electricity and water consumption and the likes. But what's key to note here is that screen 3 gives you a consolidated overview of all the buildings that we are managing eventually. Furthermore, other than the core command center setup, DigiHub also caters for different role functions, be it for senior management, account managers, or the respective site teams as well. So looking deeper into the dashboard display, specifically for fault detection via the AI algorithm, the asset types monitored by IoT sensors cuts across just about all the M&E related assets, less the lifts and escalators, which brings us to 4 asset classes here in the ACMVs, electrical installations, generators, and pumps. And the AI engine results are pretty user-friendly and straightforward in 2 categories. Basically, an alert colored in orange, which are indicative of less severe issues, and an alarm colored in red for more critical issues, which are indicative of a more pressing situation. So moving on to the key benefits of asset and operations management, you can glean from the previous slides that property owners will generally be able to monitor the services performance, major assets info, and their related faults amongst other important information with regards to their properties. This performance overview of critical assets will assist them in gaining insights for better strategic and routine business decisions. And through our robust tracking system, coupled with our AI-enabled repair before total breakdowns regime, the lifespan of respective assets can be prolonged, which allows the asset management teams to cater more accurately for redundancies. Next, DigiHub's real-time monitoring utilities also helps to track and prevent wastages due to faulty equipment or water leakages, and helps to reduce utility costs as a result. Furthermore, this is a centrally monitored system without the need for manual readings at site, and thus reduces the need for human intervention. This in turn minimizes the reliance on manual labor and achieves high efficiency and effectiveness of maintenance activities as a whole. The potential reduction in utilities and manpower resources enhances the sustainability for both asset and facilities management, while driving productivities to a whole new level. On the way forward, DigiHub was actually created with the main aim of helping building owners save costs, with its benefits directly dependent on economies of scale. The wider it is proliferated, the more costs will be saved through the likes of predictive maintenance, which will also help to achieve higher labor productivities. Through the sharing and consolidation of resources, the capacities and bandwidths of the current facilities and asset management teams will be enhanced as well. In conclusion, CBM is continuously pushing forth in our strive to make a difference, and we try to make changes on conventional methods to what we deem are better ways of doing things going forward. For example, instead of manually scheduling things, we can now do automatic alerts and assignments for work orders where able. And while we will continue to do preventive maintenance, we will slowly shift away from doing reactive maintenance and go on a more predictive maintenance regime instead. And lastly, whatever work processes and job scopes that are manpower intensive will be streamlined with the help of technology, of course, whereby we aim to use lesser people, but aim for a better service delivery. In all, we strongly believe that platforms like DigiHub will help to reduce the amount of resources used, lessening wastages, and contribute significantly to the sustainability efforts of establishments in general. With that, I end my portion of the sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. That is really amazing. Yeah. So now I think we can start, a little conversation. Hey, Kok Tai, you and I are really old timer. I still remember that you were one of the very first green architect in Singapore. So can I ask you first, like, what were the drivers, behind all these, commitments to green building, green design, and all that, during a time that it was not even mandatory?
Well, I think as an architect, in fact, all architects, I believe, in the world would like to design something that is sustainable. But I guess they may not know how to do it or what is the reference point. So my enlightenment, I will use the word enlightenment, really come from my engagement with CDL, really. And after that, is a trip that BCA organized to the World Green Building Council in Denver, United States. And that's where I become not only interested, but become enlightened on how important it is on this sustainability to the world. Of course, it sounds very cliche, but really, if we really don't do something now for our generation or even the next generation, there'll be really nothing left,
Yes, wonderful. But I'm sure in the early days, you faced a lot of challenges. So what were the challenges, and what about today? Do you see more opportunities, or 50-50? Yeah.
Well, I think the challenges has always been there, even from beginning. Of course, one of the most important challenges really is cost, right? And even today, after we have drive down costs of green building from the initial of almost on a high single digit now to a low single digit. But again, our green building criteria have risen, from let's say you look at Green Mark, in the beginning we are doing like gold plus. To there we are doing a super low energy platinum building. So I think the challenges is still there, but obviously I have encountered more and more like-minded people who really that really think that it's important to invest in this. And I believe that it will gain more and more traction, especially in Singapore context, where the Singapore government have pushed out the Singapore Green building master plan and also the Singapore Green Plan by 2030. And also, I think one of the major factor will be the carbon tax to increase, from $5 up to $50 to $80 in 2030. And I think that will be a powerful force to push the green agenda.
Yes, wonderful. Neil, hi. Thank you for, sharing with us how facility building management can really contribute to the green agenda. You are much younger. So what were the drivers that, push you to, adopt, using digital to help, in the sustainability journey?
Okay, I have to be very honest and admit that from a personal perspective, I think I really need to learn a little bit more on the sustainability journey, right? But professionally, of course, I think I've really seen the values of it, especially with the pandemic happening. The FM industry has always been a very manpower reliant one, right? And I think we knew about this even pre-COVID. We were very well aware of it. But I think when COVID hit, the reality really beat down very hard, right? Especially with the irony that the two segments which we needed the most, cleaners, which was needed to do more wipe downs, more disinfections, and security to control access and do more SMM type measures. These were the hardest people to retain and recruit, right? And especially with all the lockdowns happening all over the place. So I guess from the sustainability perspective, it's really, really important that we drive hard on technology. And I think that now with this consensus that resources are limited and that we are trying to reduce wastages, the opportunity has presented itself in the pandemic, whereby more people are more open to using technology, even though there's a higher cost involved. Yeah.
Wow, wonderful to hear that. Neil, you have been with Wohub for almost 2 decades and assumed the position as a ED for more than a decade now. And we have really seen changes and how you have actually, the company have stepped up on sustainability, and also sustainable build practices. What were the drivers when we first started as in one of the oldest construction companies in Singapore and the region? What were really the driving force when you first started?
The driving forces towards improving our contribution back to environment. I think there are maybe three main points that drive us to make these appropriate changes. I feel the social responsibility aspect to reverse the impacts of global warming would be the key reason that would push us to actually move towards these initiatives. For me, we need to also create a shared purpose, especially for the younger generation joining the workforce, to attract, to retain these talent. People are the key driving force and the success for any company. I think lastly, for us, I think it's important to stay ahead, or at least to keep up with the megatrends that will impact our business. I think these are the 3 reasons that are the most important to drive these changes.
Well, with climate emergency and the business case, of integrating sustainability into, the business model has never been stronger. Do you think that it applies the same to the construction industry?
I think absolutely. I mean, for the construction industry, I think like any industry, we face our own challenges and opportunities. For me, I think that the challenges are, at the moment, I think the biggest thing that would change the needle in the BE sector is the consumer mindset. At the end of the day, I think that what the consumer wants drives the product that is actually being developed. Another challenge for us is the razor-thin profit margins, as I mentioned. It's very difficult for us to reinvest back into our people and our technology with the current margins that we face and the amount of risk that we are exposed to. Finally, on challenges, I would say internal stakeholders, education and buy-in, and the capabilities and the bandwidth and resources that we have as an internal organization that needs to be upgraded. Not being so negative, I think it also provides great opportunities for us here as a contractor in the BE sector. If we are able to embark on this journey, it might provide a greater source of differentiation. One as an employer, but two as a builder. You know, it will develop new construction verticals that we can definitely look at exploring. You know, for me, I feel that, you know, we can definitely look at trying to build not just sustainably, but be responsible for building sustainable products. You know, we are exploring looking at solar farms, floating cities. You know, these are things that would, I think, hopefully not only give back to the environment, but allow us to differentiate ourselves as a builder moving forward. And, you know, I do feel that these are great business opportunities that will allow us to really go for the next 100 years of the growth in the company.
Wow, sounds really good. And just now in your presentation, you talk about building materials, which is also a rising global trend. And even World Green Building Councils has also, you know, been advocating a whole life cycle. So embodied carbon is a very important agenda now. And do you think that moving forward, will the opportunities to, you know, to develop an adoption of sustainable building materials will be fast-tracked?
In terms of adoption of lower embodied materials, I do think so. I feel that one is, as mentioned just now, consumer requirements. And I think as a consumer gets more educated, they are going to make stronger decisions towards materials and products that are produced more responsibly. But I also do feel that a regulatory impact will be coming in, and you know, I think the cost of carbon credits is going to continue to rise. And you know, for us to achieve net zero, you either do it in your process, or you have to find a way to purchase carbon credits, which I think will automatically accelerate the adoption of such you know, lower embodied carbon materials.
Hey, Kok Tai, back to you. So in our early day, when we, you know, come up with like, you know, green building, even at a higher level and all, the home buyers were not willing to like, hey, share cost and you know, and pay a bit more. So for many years, we've been actually, you know, managing the cost and, you know, weave it in to see how. But today, I think, do you see the change of people's liking and preference for green, you know, development or home and all?
Oh, definitely, Esther. I think for commercial building, retail, office, no-brainer. I mean, we understand why it is important, not only from global point of view, but from cost point of view, the maintenance of it, especially in today's context, where the energy cost is going to go up higher and higher, right? On the residential side, whether it's HDB or private condo, we also see demand from the buyers for green building, for simple reason, again, because I think more and more people are educated and being shared why it is important to do so. Of course, you still have some outlier who say that, yeah, you know, it's too expensive and things like that. But I think moving forward, I don't see how this will change the demand, because really the demand for green building will increase more and more.
Yeah, so now today is no longer just, you know, good to have, you know, not just like mandatory, but you have actually built this passion that you think really building green is benefiting the users as well. Yeah. So, Neil, let me turn to you. You know, FM business has never been deemed very sexy business. Before, it's a complaint business. When the lift and the lights are working, nobody will come and call you. Hello, you do a good job, right? When the lift not working, immediately, hello, when the lift is not working. So, what do you think your, you know, FM business can really bring to the tables to benefit, you know, building users, and also to help to, you know, lower the carbon footprint?
Okay, I think that especially the increase in the recent tariff rates, right, for electricity and all that, it's even more timely right now for owners, building owners and clients alike, to really reconsider their own energy usage, right, for their own benefits of reduction of cost. Okay, and in reducing their costs, we're actually able to help them better manage their resources, whether it's in terms of the manpower that they need, the spares and the redundancies that they need. And in the long run, that whole sustainability journey will certainly be beneficial for them. Yeah. So as I earlier mentioned, I think that even a few years back, it was probably difficult to try and psycho these clients to adopt some of these measures. But post-pandemic now, we are really seeing a shift in the mindset, whereby they're really more, they see the benefits of it in the long run. And so the question is really no longer an if, but when. When do you want to implement some of these technological innovative solutions to help your business grow? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure now even some tenants also ask about, the IQ, indoor air quality and health and safety become a very, very important agenda, especially after, being locked down for so long, because of pandemics and all that. So I would like to turn to, some final thoughts. Okay, we really, Kok Tai, you mentioned that you were enlightened by one of the trip that World Green Building Council organized. And to tell the truth, I was, my passion for green is also really, really reinforced after I serve on the World Green Building Council's, corporate advisory board and interact with all these passionate people, So I would like to see how, optimistic you guys are, and in helping, World GBC advancing net zero movement, from the Singapore perspective, and architect, go to you first.
Well, Esther, I'm really very optimistic because as I highlighted earlier, the Singapore government already put in plans to achieve the net zero energy by and around 2050 with all the green plans included. Of course, at my capacity as president of SGBC as well, we have been pushing this part to be very sustainable. We have been having dialogue with all the industry, from the end user to the government authorities, also to the developer itself. And really, I'm very optimistic that it will happen. But having said that, I also know that it is a long road. So at this point of time, I think as an architect, when we design, we will still need to design the building to be flexible and to be adaptable. Meaning that just in case, the water level go up, you make sure that your building is not flooded, right? So there will still have to be designed to protect the building from certain element that may happen. Yeah.
Great. Neil, you're a younger person. Are you optimistic that we are going to leave behind a world that is sustainable for your future generations?
I think the enthusiasm here has again rubbed off, like what Kok Tai has mentioned earlier. So I am optimistic, but I also do have reservations in terms of the mindset of the general public, right? When I say so, I speak from a personal view again, like what I mentioned earlier, in really needing to be more aware of sustainability issues. And I think one of the main reasons why that mindset is as such is because, you just look at the news of global warming, for example, versus what's happening now in the world, right? Inflation hikes, supply chain lockdowns due to the Russian war or China's lockdown and things like that. I think the thing that really takes a backseat is the global warming issue. And the reason is because people generally don't see the impact now, right? But of course, if they think of it in the much longer term, then they realize that, something bad is going to come eventually. And I think that's the education portion that the likes of myself will need to be a bit more indoctrinated with, right? Yeah. But having seen the government's push, as for what Kok Tai mentioned again on the government's plan, the raise in carbon taxes, the push for electrical vehicles by 2040, if I don't remember wrongly, I think that's very evident that we are going to go into that direction, regardless of whether people like it or not, right, from a local context. And I think that in itself is the main reason for my optimism, and I'm looking forward to see how we're going to change in that perspective.
Over to you, Neil.
Yes, I am definitely optimistic. I believe that all stakeholders working together, we can definitely achieve our target together.
Definitely. Thank you, three gentlemen, really, sharing your thoughts and all that. I think the science about climate change is very clear. Now we are also talking about the art of engaging more people, educating, growing a larger force for change. And of course, the economic benefits is also very clear. As a business, person, and definitely we have seen the cost of action will be, in the longer run, will be lower than the cost of inaction, because investor will screen you out, and also procurer, the bigger player like us, we also wants to, work with or engage, businesses, supplier, vendors who share our same, commitments to climate action. So with this, I think I want to congratulate, World GBC for the 20th anniversary. And I think we all together with all the value chain in the built environment in Singapore, we wish you well, and we will give you our very best support in this race to zero. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you
the
all very
best.
much. Thank you.